For 50 years humanity watched the galaxy from the shadows, silent, preparing for threats no one else imagined. Now the darkness has arrived, and the species once called primitive is about to change the fate of the galaxy forever. Captain Cell stared at the tactical display as Scourge ships were destroyed one after another. Explosions lit up the void, and debris drifted aimlessly. "All ships, fall back to secondary positions," she ordered, her voice tense. Her officers glanced nervously at each other. They knew there were no secondary positions. The last line of defense was about to collapse, and billions of lives hung in the balance. Suddenly, the sensor officer sat upright, eyes wide with disbelief. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple spatial anomalies behind the Scourge fleet. They're huge." Cell frowned. "The Scourge don't use jump technology. Are your sensors malfunctioning?" The officer shook his head. "No, Captain. These readings are real, off the scale." Panic began to ripple through the bridge. A strange silence fell over the battlefield as half the Scourge fleet turned toward the empty space behind them. Then reality seemed to tear apart. Space twisted and warped violently as 300 alien ships emerged from the anomalies. These vessels were nothing like the elegant Council designs. Angular, brutal, and armored, they seemed built for one purpose: destruction. The new ships fired instantly. Massive tungsten rods and nuclear warheads tore through Scourge vessels, their organic hulls exploding on impact. Captain Cell could hardly believe her eyes. "What are they?" she whispered. The weapons were devastating, overwhelming, and precise. The Scourge, once invincible, now fell like wheat before the scythe. The bridge trembled with tension and awe. A voice cut across all Council frequencies, calm and commanding. "Terran Defense Command to Council Armada. Maintain your positions. We have the field." The Council officers exchanged astonished glances. Admiral Vexarian, restored to command, felt disbelief and relief in equal measure. The humans they had dismissed as primitives were real, and they had come prepared to fight. Admiral Vexarian watched as the Terran ships executed chaotic but effective maneuvers. They jumped into the Scourge formation, fired devastating volleys, and disappeared before the enemy could react. The Scourge had no counter. Vexarian's tactical officers could only stare. "They fight differently, unpredictably," one muttered. The humans' battle strategy was wild, precise, and terrifying. A human face appeared on his screen. "Admiral Vexarian, I'm Marcus Jang of Earth's First Fleet." "We're here to help," the man said. Vexarian struggled for words. "You warned us. And still, you came?" Jang's calm gaze met his. "Better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Millions depended on it." Vexarian felt a strange mix of shame and gratitude. The humans coordinated flawlessly, tearing through Scourge ships with rail guns, missiles, and kinetic bombardment. Entire Scourge formations vanished in moments. The Council fleet watched in disbelief, relief washing over them. Captain Cell realized the humans' arrival had changed everything. The war that seemed lost moments ago now had a chance. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage. After the battle at Tears of Andrus, the Council fleet and the Terran ships regrouped. Captain Cell stared at the debris field, astonished. Thousands of Scourge vessels had been annihilated, yet the Terran fleet remained mostly intact. The humans had lost only a fraction of their forces, demonstrating unmatched strategy and firepower. Relief and awe filled the Council officers, but the cost of war was clear. Admiral Jang addressed all Council ships, transmitting coordinates for wounded vessels. Medical supplies and repair teams were ready. "Let's get your people home safe," he said. His calm professionalism inspired confidence, even as Captain Cell counted the enormous losses. Humanity's presence was no longer a question of survival, it was a promise of hope. A private conversation between Vexarian and Zhang revealed deeper truths. "Your Commander Chen mentioned observing us for 50 years, Vexarian asked. Zhang smiled faintly. "We are human. Paranoid, aggressive, and prepared for worst-case scenarios. We plan for threats before they exist." Vexarian felt both respect and unease at their meticulous preparation. The two fleets began preparations for the next mission, destroying the Scourge-breeding worlds. Plans were drawn, simulations ran, and contingencies reviewed. The Council fleet would evacuate nearby populated areas, while Terran Dreadnoughts would provide overwhelming firepower. Humanity had not only proven their strength, they had proven their willingness to bear the burden of war. Commander Chen looked out at the stars, deep in thought. "Home," she whispered when Vexarian asked. She pondered the consequences of revealing humanity's existence. They had been safe in the shadows, unknown, until now. Being seen meant joining the war, and the galaxy would never forget them. Yet she felt the weight of responsibility as she prepared her people for what was to come. The Scourge were not idle. Their forces amassed once more, preparing for a final assault. Tens of thousands of organic vessels moved as one, a living nightmare in the void. The Council fleet formed defensive lines, shields overlapping in protective layers. Behind them, the Terran Dreadnoughts held loose formations, poised to strike where needed. The calm before the storm carried an ominous weight. Admiral Zhang explained the strategy. Council ships hold the line. Terran Dreadnoughts operate as rapid response units. Hit hard, then jump out. Hit and run tactics. Vexarian admitted the chaos of the plan went against every instinct he had. Council doctrine relied on formation and coordination. Controlled chaos, Chen corrected. The humans thrived in unpredictability, a quality the Scourge could never counter. As the Scourge swarm arrived, space was engulfed by their organic bioluminescence. The battle began with energy lances and particle beams cutting through the waves of life. But the enemy had adapted. New bioforms absorbed energy more efficiently, and for every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Cell reported the eastern flank being overwhelmed. Humanity's rapid response units prepared to jump in, ready for the chaos that would define the next phase of the war. The Terran Dreadnoughts vanished and reappeared near the struggling Council ships with perfect timing. Their kinetic weapons tore through Scourge vessels that had resisted Council fire for minutes. Relief swept across the fleet, but it was temporary. The Scourge were learning, adapting to human tactics faster than expected. Every victory was immediately countered by new, deadly organic innovations. Commander Chen's voice trembled as she reported new threats. Acid sprays corroded Terran armor, and electromagnetic pulses disrupted targeting systems. Zhang's jaw tightened. The humans switched to close-range combat protocols, forcing the Scourge into deadly engagements. Council ships tried to maintain formation, but casualties mounted rapidly. The battle was turning into a brutal test of endurance and strategy. Admiral Okoro, leading the Terran Second Fleet aboard the Gettysburg, fought fiercely. Her flagship was swarmed by dozens of smaller Scourge ships. Despite their advanced weapons, the sheer numbers of the enemy were overwhelming. Okoro's last transmission was a warning to her fleet to fall back and regroup. Vexarian watched helplessly as red icons filled his tactical display, marking lost ships and mounting deaths. Casualties escalated. Council losses reached 40%, while humanity lost nearly a third of its fleet. The Scourge continued advancing, seemingly endless and unrelenting. Vexarian muttered, "We're losing." Zhang stared at his tactical display with intensity, calculating desperate possibilities. His mind raced through probabilities, every option carrying immense risk. Zhang considered a radical plan. He explained to Chen that the quantum drives created exotic particles, usually harmless. Concentrated, they could destabilize spacetime. By jumping 900 dreadnoughts into the Scourge center simultaneously, they could trigger a micro-collapse. The risk was catastrophic, ships could be destroyed, drives could fail, but it was humanity's best chance to turn the battle. Chen realized the implications. Timing had to be perfect. A single misstep could destroy hundreds of ships, including their own. She saw the weight of command on Zhang's shoulders. When he asked, "Do you have a better idea?" she understood there was none. Humanity's doctrine relied on precision, bravery, and the willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. Zhang gave the order. Protocol Prometheus was underway. All Terran Dreadnoughts prepared for synchronized jumps, saturating the target zone with exotic particles. Council ships watched, confused but trusting the humans' judgment. One by one, the Dreadnoughts vanished, appearing directly in the heart of the Scourge swarm. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as enemy ships reacted to the audacious move. The Terran ships unleashed everything they had, not at the Scourge vessels directly, but into the surrounding space. Kinetic projectiles, nuclear warheads, plasma bursts, all amplified the particle saturation. Space itself began to distort, gravitational shears tearing apart any vessel that approached too closely. Chen's display reported saturation at critical levels. Seconds later, Zhang ordered the jump. The fleet vanished, leaving behind chaos and devastation. Not all Terran ships survived the jump. 37 were caught in the collapse, their quantum drives failing or crews hesitating for a split second too long. The rest emerged on the far side of the Scourge swarm, having successfully triggered the microsingularity. Spacetime had collapsed briefly, pulling in 90% of the enemy fleet. The void was almost empty, leaving scattered debris and stunned survivors. Council ships immediately moved in, destroying the remaining disoriented Scourge vessels. Without the hive mind's coordination, the survivors were easy prey. Vexarian watched the tactical displays in disbelief, noting the sheer scale of destruction. Humanity had gambled everything, but the results were undeniable. The Scourge threat at Tears of Andrus had been effectively neutralized, with only a few damaged ships left to face the Council's cleanup. In the following weeks, the breeding worlds were sterilized. Terran kinetic bombardments turned entire planets into lifeless rocks, eradicating every Scourge egg and larvae. The Council debated studying the remains, but Zhang refused. Some threats were too dangerous to preserve. Humanity's decisive actions had prevented a future invasion and ensured that the Scourge would never recover. 3 months later, the Terran embassy officially opened on Zenthari Prime. Ambassador Chen, promoted after the war, stood beside Admiral Vexarian during the dedication ceremony. The embassy's architecture was plain and functional, contrasting with the Council's ornate designs. Yet Vexarian knew the meaning behind it. Humans were simple, efficient, and deadly when necessary. They had earned respect through action, not appearances. Vexarian quietly remarked, "Your people fight like demons. I don't know whether to be grateful or terrified." Chen smiled. Humanity had a saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." They had prepared for decades, hoping they would never need the weapons, but when the galaxy cried out, they responded. Another human saying came to mind, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." Chen gazed at the stars visible through the embassy ceiling. Earth had once been alone, staring into darkness and wondering if anyone else existed. Now, humanity had stepped forward to ensure no one else would face such darkness alone. Vexarian raised a glass in a quiet toast to humanity. Chen touched her glass to his, acknowledging the Council for accepting help when it was offered. Across the galaxy, Terran Dreadnoughts now patrolled alongside Council ships. Vessel names like Thermopylae, Verdun, Hiroshima, and Stalingrad became symbols not of human wars, but of unity and resilience. Children of multiple species learned about the Battle of the Veil Nebula in school, the day humans emerged from the shadows and changed the galaxy forever. Humanity had revealed itself and was now an essential part of galactic affairs. The real work had only begun. New ships, weapons, and technologies were being developed in anticipation of threats the galaxy hadn't yet imagined. Humanity had learned one vital lesson: the universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But they had also learned they could stand against the darkness, not as conquerors, but as guardians. A species once dismissed as primitive had proven to be a survivor, a fighter, and an ally the galaxy could not ignore.